Welcome to the first class. Today, I would like to talk about social entrepreneurship and why it is important. Before we get started, I would like to ask you a few questions. These questions, of course, are for the students. Have you conducted research or consulting on social entrepreneurship or social enterprise? Have you started or do you plan to start a social enterprise, nonprofit or business to address a social or development problem? Are you interested in pursuing a career in social entrepreneurship or social impact? I will give a chance to students to raise their hands, or just to, if someone wants to answer this question, good, I will ask them to answer these questions. So, and then I'll summarize. Okay, if you answer, for these students, answer yes to these questions, congratulations, you are coming to the right class. You are choosing the right class for you. For the students who answered no, congratulations as well, because you are going to learn new things and to explore a new field. The learning objective of this class is to understand social entrepreneurship through research, consulting, and career options. And specifically, this class will help students understand the key concepts in social entrepreneurship, become familiar with some critical issues in the recent research and consulting on social entrepreneurship, and help the students gain insights into career options, career opportunities in this field of social entrepreneurship. Because I think when you understand the career opportunities out there, you understand this field deeper. And in this class, we will explore three overarching questions. So what is social entrepreneurship, right? And why we should care about social entrepreneurship? Why it is interesting and important? And how to pursue a successful career in social entrepreneurship. So first of all, I would like to share my story. 16 years ago, when I was a graduate student, like you sitting in this classroom, I was very fortunate to join a professor's research, focusing on survival difficulties of nonprofit organizations. I interviewed more than 60 nonprofit organizations and find that the most pressing issue for these organizations were their financial difficulties. At that time, I observed there was a new trend emerging. What is that? The trend that is there was a growing number of nonprofits engaging with commercial activities. For example, they charging service fees, selling products, tickets, services, books, memberships, so on and so forth, right? So that phenomenon confused me because my prior understanding on nonprofit was that, nonprofit organizations were not supposed to do commercial activities, right? But when I go to the field, interviewed many nonprofit organizations, I find that, wow, so many organizations has basically conducted commercial activities. So that confused me. And that confusion brought me to pursue a further research at the University of Oxford in my PhD, where I continually asked myself, why this is new phenomenon, we should care about that, right? Why it is interesting and important, and why we should care about that. And, I also, again, did some field work in both UK and China. And then I gradually find that, when nonprofit organizations transition to social enterprises, their likelihood of changing government policies actually increased because they have gained the capacity to construct the social value chains. And by constructing social value chains, these organizations were more likely to generate positive social change or social impact, right? When they garnered social impact, evidence on social impact, this social impact will sooner or later lead to policy change or policy impact. So I find that, wow, this is my aha moment. So I think, oh, wow, the social entrepreneurship is a political phenomenon, but the consequence may be political, right? So that I feel very interesting and exciting about that. So I analyzed, 3 large-scale survey data and conducted case studies and numerous interviews, and I find some evidence, and this evidence supports this argument. And during my PhD, I got a chance to visit UPenn Center for Social Impact Strategy. And it was there I developed a paper using data from the UK to delve into the relationship between social entrepreneurship and the policy influence of third sector organizations in the UK. And after my PhD, I luckily came to Georgetown University's Beck Center for Social Impact and Innovation, and under the supervision of Sona Shaw, who is the founding director of the Beck Center. And At that time, Solo asked me to focus on scaling social impact because at that time, scaling is a very hot topic, because formally when people talk about scale, what they're actually talking about is scale organizations or organizational growth, right? Increasing revenue, growing staff size, expanding to larger geographical regions, right? People are talking about the organizational growth. But I think what really matters is scaling the results, scaling that social impact. So how to scale social impact? Scale organizations is one factor, but I think the answer really matters is the ecosystem around the social impact. So this idea led me to explore the innovative approach to achieve the goal of scaling social impact without maximizing organizational growth. So I think the solution lies in the building an ecosystem. And this is the ecosystem that I built at the Back Center that I spent 1 year to review a large number of literature. And then I built this framework. And this framework, I use this framework for one thing. One is I developed my course, the following sessions on the social entrepreneurship using this framework. So the following courses were focusing on the organization, including social enterprise, non-profit, for-profit, and the strategies, what kind of strategy they use to deliver, impact. And the technology and the data, especially in the fourth industrial revolution, right? There are so many new technologies and data emerging, big data, new technologies, and OpenAI, right? ChatGPT, this new technology, value chains, supply chains, and blockchains, so on and so forth. And I will talk on the following class. I'll also talk about institutional infrastructure like GIM, in business sector, and resources, including financial resources, human resources, and then I will also talk about impact investing, social finance, and government policy. So each of the following sessions will focus in one topic in this framework. So that is how I organize this course. And on the other hand, I use this framework to further move on to conduct case studies on Rockefeller Foundation and B Lab. So I studied how Rockefeller Foundation initiated and built the ecosystem of scaling impact investing, and how the B Lab initiated and built the ecosystem for B Corps. And that is how I use this framework. Later on, I joined Georgetown Business School. I got a chance to take a research on the strategies of social enterprise and nonprofits in improving economic mobility of disadvantaged people in the US, funded by the Bank of America Charitable Foundation. I looked at, economic mobility. So what is economic mobility? So economic mobility is how much a person's income changes over time or over generations. The changes over time means, intergenerational mobility. Over generations is intergenerational mobility. And my research find that, I summarize 3 approaches and 8 strategies. That is how social enterprise and nonprofits can improve economic mobility of disadvantaged people. The 3 approaches are workforce inclusion, including directly hiring people, removing barriers. For example, Starbucks has an initiative that is directly hiring veterans and military spouses. Goodwill, I know you all know of, Goodwill have hired persons with disabilities, right? And in terms of moving barriers, that means that some organizations remove the barriers in employment. For example, criminal records, right? These are the barriers, like health issues, persons with disabilities, right? And a lack of trust, from the immigrants, refugees, right? Transportation, degree requirements, language requirements, right? So a lot of these are barriers in employment. So some organizations do not consider these things when they're hiring people, so they remove these barriers. And in terms of workforce development, some organizations provide skills training to disadvantaged people, so these people can use these skills to find their jobs. For example, some organizations provide cooking skills, right? Coding skills, healthcare, home care service skills training, right? So these people can use the skills to find jobs. And the Georgetown Pivot program at business school provided entrepreneurship training to formerly incarcerated people, collaborated with the DC government. So that is also a skill training, right? And in terms of building relationships, some unemployment young people and formerly incarcerated people, they are hanging around on the street. And some organizations, one of them is called ROCA. ROCA build long-term relationship with its unemployed young people to get them out of the street, to ensure they are back to the normal life. So this is building a relationship with them. This is also a workforce development. And in terms of changing the system, there are so many strategies. For example, Bank of America, they have a program that provide funding to social enterprises and nonprofits that can help the disadvantaged people. Some online platforms like Uber, like Airbnb, Upwork, they built the online platforms so the marginalized people can self-employed through gig economy, right? Initiating a movement, for example, California-based an organization called REDF. REDF initiated a national movement of employment social enterprise and collaborated with these organizations to propose a new policy, that is to propose the build a California version of Social Innovation Fund. At the Obama administration, there is a nationwide Social Innovation Fund, but they are proposing to build a California-wide Social Innovation Fund. This fund aims to sponsor social enterprises and nonprofits to help the advantaged people and disadvantaged people. Okay, so after my postdoc and research fellow, I moved on to the industry, especially worked at the two nonprofits. One is a health house and the other is the independent sector. So health house, I believe many of you have already familiar with, right? It is just in Georgetown, near Georgetown University, just the blocks away down the street. Have you been there before? It is a historic building. It is a home. It was a home of the first Secretary of the Navy. But more importantly, it's an incubator. It's an incubator. It invites social entrepreneurs come to live there, reside there, and provide capacity building trainings. So, so that is the health house. So independent sector is a national association of nonprofits. It did a lot of advocacy and a lobby for the federal government to maximize the voice of nonprofit sector. Okay, so at a health house, I engaged with the research. Basically, I led a team of 3 graduate interns from Georgetown and GW to produce a report on social enterprise ecosystem report. So this report is a comprehensive assessment of social enterprise landscape in America. So I built a framework, designed the metrics, measure the 4 dimensions of social enterprise ecosystems, and the result is providing a ranking of 21 cities in the US in terms of where the social enterprise ecosystem developed in these cities. So it is a very interesting report. And I put this report in the reading materials. So students, if you want to have a look at it, that's great. So at the independent sector, I helped them to publish their flagship report called the Health of the US Nonprofit Sector. So this report provided data analysis recommendations for nonprofit organizations. Nonprofit organizations have an overlapping with social enterprises. So that's why we also need to understand nonprofit organizations very well. And luckily, independent sector has an industry-wide database for nonprofit sector, and they release this data quarterly, so we can have an overall picture of the nonprofit sector. More recently, I joined the World Bank Group and did many research and consulting on social entrepreneurship and climate change. I think the consulting project I engage with can be divided into 2 groups. One group is social related, social entrepreneurship, social sustainability, inclusion, and protection. And the first project I joined is with a social development MENA team. So I conduct the research on social entrepreneurship, how to use social entrepreneurship to improve disability inclusion and youth employment in the 4 MENA countries, Tunisia, Palestine, Djibouti, and Yemen. And then that report provided recommendations how they can improve the employment of youth and persons with disabilities, because their unemployment rate is really high because several countries are in the civil war. And at the MENA team, I also looked at the advisory service projects on social and environmental risks and how to screening risks and provide the recommendations how to assess the risks. And I also did a portfolio review on a number of disability inclusion projects and propose a new financial tool, how to use social bond to improve disability inclusion. So social bond, broadly speaking, can be also included social entrepreneurship because they are, they're upstream of social entrepreneurship, right? So they many of social bonds can sponsor nonprofit and social enterprises and for-profit. And at a disability hub, data hub, I help them to convene different data sources on disability, because disability data are very fragmented. There are many organizations, UN, many universities have sources, but they are not convened together. So this disability data hub aims to try to integrate this data source together, and then use this data source to produce, do data research and consulting. At another team, I looked at the independent relation agencies, because World Bank have many projects overseas and many findings and loans, and they usually hire local IVA. So to measure the performance of this project, to assess the impact of this project. So the local IVA will evaluate, verify the outcomes and produce a report, and this report will come back to the World Bank. And I review this report and provide summaries their challenges, provide recommendations how to further improve. So yeah, it's another interesting project. The second category that I engaged with consulting is environment related, right? Climate change, green finance, water crisis, and risks. At climate change team, I did portfolio review on NDCs and help build the NDC database and use the database to do the water project. And at IFC, I engaged with AP Eagle Fund impact report, produced the annual impact report. So AP Eagle Fund is the largest green bond fund for developing countries. And they produce the annual impact report annually. So I will talk a little later about this impact evaluation. And on the other side, another team, I have to look at the, at OPCS, I assessed how the climate change and the results team was reflected in their country partnership framework. And at the water team, I helped them to develop background for CCDR. So CCDR is a flagship of the report on climate change, and especially focusing on Turkey. And I also helped develop the methodology of the crisis preparedness of metrics, especially on the natural disasters. So this is what I did at World Bank. And addition to World Bank, I advised an organization called the Finance Center for South-South Cooperation, focusing on impact investing. So impact investing is also a critical part of the ecosystem of social entrepreneurship. We will have a class session on resource, especially finance, and especially social finance, right? Impact investing is a kind of mainstream form of social finance. So impact investing is private sector investing in social enterprise and nonprofits. And I take a look at the global trends of impact investing, and also did a case study on China. China is a leading social entrepreneur, social enterprise, and the impact investors. And this project has the outcome of this consulting is a publication of this book that won the top 10 annual research in 2022. Okay, so based on the above mentioned consulting project, I have produced 29 consulting reports, and many of them were created based on project at World Bank, and other are from other nonprofits and think tanks. But a lot of them are in the field of social entrepreneurship, broadly defined: social entrepreneurship, social innovation, social impact, social finance, impact investing, so on and so forth. Okay, so I believe you right now have an understanding of the important topics and issues in the social entrepreneurship. So the next question is, what are the career options, right? So generally speaking, I think there are four mainstream, academic careers in social entrepreneurship: academia, consulting, international organizations, and nonprofits, or start your own startup. In academia, social entrepreneurship is an emerging field. It is not established, it's emerging, but it's quickly evolving, right? And social entrepreneurship is an interdisciplinary field or cross-disciplinary field. It cut across, international development, economics, business management, public affairs, public administration, nonprofit management, social sciences, so on and so forth. And I would imagine over the next few decades, we can witness a growing number of scholars and academic journals in this field. Currently, there is no leading journals in this field. We have top journals, but we do not have, very field top like, AERs or such leading journals in social entrepreneurship. But I would imagine in the next couple of decades, stronger journals will emerge. That would mean more opportunities for the academia. So if the students, you have interest in academia, go for it. It is worth pursuing. But please note that the tenure track position in social entrepreneurship currently are relatively rare comparing with some established disciplines. I have a number of publications as listed in my Google Scholar page. But I currently did not find a tenure track position in social entrepreneurship, as I mentioned, because it's a relatively rare in the field. In academia, another part, teaching is another important part of the component. So I have taught various courses on social entrepreneurship, overlapping with nonprofit management, public policy, innovation, business entrepreneurship, and so on and so forth at several universities. And service is a third part of the academia work, and I have involved in many such activities. For example, I served as a mentor for the student pitch competition at the SFS, the Job Social Innovation Lab in February. And I also judged the public policy challenge at Georgetown, and I judged the other universities student pitch competition as well. They have also social enterprise collective or gatherings, and also mentor students to help them to develop ideas in social entrepreneurship or social innovation. So if you have an interesting academic work, I think go for it. But if you do not have a passion for academia, I think there are many other opportunities, and even more opportunities in industry to grow your expertise and build your career. So I have provided advisory services to a number of organizations, including the list I listed here. But I believe there are many other opportunities outside and out there from a wide range of opportunities, because this field is growing, right? And the third part of the career option is international organizations and nonprofits. So in this table, I list some leading organizations. They have numerous projects, and these projects all need specialists and analysts to measure their performance and impact. So there is a growing demand for impact measurement and evaluation, right? And the growing demand for impact measurement and evaluation means more opportunities for students like you. To help you grasp these opportunities, I would love to offer a separate course, a separate class on impact measurement and evaluation. So that course, I know there is a professor, Charlie is teaching this impact-related course, but my course will be a little different, is that my focus will focusing on the standards and the methodology in the industry. So the table, the right column of the table summarize the standards and the methodology these organizations used to measure and evaluate the impact, right? And I would like to go through each of them for the class. We will, each class will, review one or two or three standards or methodologies, and we will delve into their principles, their frameworks, their, methodology approaches to looking at, how they really measure, because this framework they used to measure their own projects, right? So that is really interesting. We will review their literature, standards, and also to do some case studies on their already project conducted. And we will also, based on that, you can develop your capstone project, right? Based on their standards and your chosen organization or consulting project to develop your capstone project. So I think that would be interesting. It's a practice oriented. And so by learning these standards and methodology, I believe the students will understand how the impact evaluation and the measurement operates in the real world, right? And get prepared for the future endeavors in this field. No matter you will go into social entrepreneurship or nonprofit, if you go to the for-profit government, international organizations, these standards and methodology can still help you in your future work, future career development. I think the last career option is starting your own startup or organization, right? So in practice, social entrepreneurship is also at the early stage, but the opportunities are emerging, are growing. Because in the digital area, every products and services will be digitalized. And the coming, the fourth industrial revolution, the AI, the Internet of Things, the robots, the big data, right, will provide more opportunities, will open up new avenues for social entrepreneurs. And the impact revolution is coming. So every business and industry will become impact oriented or need to report their social and environmental impact, right? So impact revolution is we can witness in the next couple of years and decades. So in this context, a practical approach for social entrepreneurs is to identify opportunities from your own personal experience. Here, I would like to provide two real-life examples. The first example is Sonia and Keys to Heart. So Sonia is my former student from SF, but she selected my course at McCourt on social entrepreneurship. So she's a 3-time cancer survivor. And in her medical treatment, she received a sweet care package from a former patient. When she received that package, Sonia felt very moved, and she made a promise after recovery, she wants to give this love forward, right? So after recovery, she came back to Georgetown, earned her graduate degree from SFS, and selected my course. And then after that, she joined many pitch competitions, and again, win the competitions. And after graduation, she founded a nonprofit called Keys to Heart. So Keys to Heart provides, personalized kits to patients and caregivers, personalized, right? Especially in the pandemic, many family members could not have access to take care of their parents because of quarantine, because they live in the hospital, they do not have their family members to visit them. So that is when this organization emerged as very, very tiny. And later on, this organization developed a virtual art therapy workshops. So that means that they transitioned to the social enterprise by charging services for these workshops. So the initial finding of Keys to Heart was from Georgetown pitch competition. She was a winner of the competition. And then the following fundings are from donations, online fundraising, sales and fees for service, especially for the workshops. So by far, their impact is they have distributed more than 5,000 kits packages to pensions in DFE and Delaware, and shipped the packages to all states in the US. So it's very good. Due to her great work, she won the Maryland Governor's Service Award in 2021. So this is a very good case, I think, from the student, a former student. The second case is Philip and Fudini. So Philip is my former colleague at a Health and House. He came from refugee family, Philip. But when Philip came to, his parents came from Laos, actually, after Vietnam War, but Philip was born in America. Philip attended graduate school at Georgetown, and then in her first few weeks, he was very craving for her mom's home cooking. So he had the idea to deliver this home to hiring refugees and immigrants to cook Asian food, cook Afghan food, African food, so that they can, really taste the genuine food for the local diners, right? So in this case, Fudini has enhanced the economic mobility and social inclusion of immigrants and refugees. And I believe many Georgetown events have already used Fudini's cuisine. So I remember last semester when I was giving a lecture in this course, the neighboring classroom have an event, and in the class break, we all go to take the Fudini's food. And I will tell the students, you see, this is Fudini food, which we just taught about in the class. So that is a very interesting moment that in the last semester. Okay, so let me summarize the key takeaways from this class. So what is social entrepreneurship? So social entrepreneurship is use entrepreneurial principles and strategies to develop and implement innovative solutions to address social problems and create social impact. So from this concept, you can see that social entrepreneurship is closely related to other concepts like social innovation, right? Like social impact, right? And so why we should care about social entrepreneurship? Firstly, I think it can help the nonprofit to overcome, survival and financial difficulties. And secondly, it can create social values and a social impact that will ultimately lead to policy change and a system change. And more importantly, it plays a critical role in enhancing economic mobility and social inclusion of vulnerable people and disadvantaged people. And furthermore, it is a critical part of the ecosystem of scaling social impact. And lastly, especially for the students, I think the opportunities in this field is growing in the next few decades, making it an exciting space for students to make a meaningful difference in their career. Then, how to pursue a successful career in social entrepreneurship? I think the first step is to explore your own passion and interest, right? And choose the right pathway. The pathway could be including, academia, consulting, international organizations, nonprofits, starting your own organizations, and even in government. We will have a session to talk about government policies. Although right now the government-specific policies targeting social entrepreneurship is rare, but I think it's still growing. And especially on the financial side, there is several new government policies emerging in the field. That is also our focus in this course. And the second one is focusing on the start, but also look beyond social entrepreneurship, right? There are growing opportunities in impact measurement and evaluation from the international organizations, from the foundations, non-profits, even governments. They have a great growing demand in this field. And impact investing. So for the private sector, they are focusing the impact investing, social finance and green finance, green climate finance are also growing quickly. I spent the last 4 years at World Bank. I engaged with a lot of projects, and I find that the projects on the climate related, are growing quickly in the recent years. And a lot of these are opportunities for students. And low carbon economy, impact economy, so on and so forth. A lot of these are great opportunities. And also for your stage in SFS and at Georgetown, I would think that the key is to take full advantage of the resources that are available to you, right? Including professors, experts, pitch competitions. I highly recommend to join many pitch competitions at SFS Global Social Innovation and Pitch Competition. And also there are many other ones like at a business school, at a McColl School Public Challenge, and at other, DC-wide pitch competition are also available. And intern opportunities at many think tanks and nonprofits. And there are many other, support system at Georgetown, at the SFS, and in DC to help you design and pursue your chosen career. And the last lesson is to, advice is to continuously expand your knowledge, enhance your skills, and actively networking to talk with many people, coffee chat with many staff and consultant at bank, and position yourself for success, so that you can position yourself in the success in the rapidly changing field of social entrepreneurship and international development. Okay, thank you so much for your attention. I would open the floor for any questions or comments. Thank you. Thank you very much.